Hey, welcome everybody. How's it going? We are currently live streaming on twingalaxies.com. If you're on the official Shadow of Mordor Wikia, shadowofmordor.wikia.com, you can see this as well. But we are in for a treat. This is the Wikia Fan Express. We are heading down to San Diego Comic-Con, and we have a special presentation here for you. We've got a Q&A with the Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor design director, Michael DePlatter. Thanks so much for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
At Comic-Con, I want to give a quick plug. On Friday at 12:30 p.m. in room 8, Shadow of Mordor is going to have a panel. It's called Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor, How the Nemesis System Evolves, New Generation Storytelling in Games, and Explores the History of the Rings of Power. Are you excited to be heading down to the show?
Couldn't be more excited. Quivering, and it's going to be a pretty big reveal as well. So yeah, very excited.
What you know? I got to imagine this is your first time that you're going to be really hands-on with the fans. What does that what does that mean to you to be able to take this to them?
I don't know. Of course, I mean it's terrifying, it's exciting, but mostly exciting. And I think because we've been working on this for a long while, and you're kind of doing it in the dark. So to actually come out, get to show it to people, get to hear people's questions, get to have that feedback, it's tremendous. Like, couldn't be more excited.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we've got a train car here full of people who I'm sure have a ton of questions for you. We've also got some questions that we've solicited from, like I said, the official Shadow of Mordor Wikia as well, users there, so we'll pepper those in as well. But, whoa, and we just got connected to the rest of the train, by the way. That's what happened, that little bump. So we're officially going to be heading to San Diego, people. All right, so why don't we have you guys queue up if you've got questions. I believe we have one question up here, so if you want to come on down, we'll have you be first. I'm going to hand you the mic. Here you go. You can look right in there.
Hello, world. My name is Jeremy. My question was, after viewing the demo, what kind of multiplayer component is there for the game?
It's a single player action, like open world action game. So we're very focused on that. As well as that, we also have kind of a social aspect to the game, which is part of our pre-order. There's a test of power, there's a challenge mode. So because the Nemesis system is so infinitely replayable, it's basically leaderboards, you can play that, you can test your scores against your friends and play that way. But the core campaign, it's a single player focused.
Okay, I heard pre-order bonuses. I assume we're going to get those pretty soon as well?
Yeah, there's they're actually all out there right now, so yeah, you can find them on the website as well.
All right, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to take this opportunity to plug the exclusives of the Shadow Mordor community as well. So be sure to go there because there's a couple, if I'm not mistaken, so that are community-specific exclusives. So do we have any questions down here? Come on up if we do. I'm going to throw one out in the meantime. We've got El Basso from Wikia Germany asked, will there be any dwarves in Shadow of Mordor? A decent game needs proper dwarves with proper beards. And if there aren't any dwarves in the game, will there at least be proper beards?
We couldn't agree more on all counts. We have a very proper dwarf with some amazing facial hair that we haven't revealed just yet. But absolutely, there is a dwarf in Mordor.
Excellent. And I'm going to ask another question from another user from Wikia Germany who's actually here, Cyanide 3. But I'm going to ask on her. But I'm going to make you come up and ask a question. So get ready here. She wants to know if there will be other characters to help Talion on his mission, not counting and dominating Uryx.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a really important part of the game that you're meeting a wide variety of different story characters. I think we've revealed Gollum, who's also in Mordor at this time. So he, of course, is really central to the story of the Rings of Power and to what's going on in Mordor. And he's been drawn there after losing his precious to Bilbo fairly recently before this. And then as well as that, a big part of what made Mordor so interesting for us to explore at this time is Sauron, and a lot of his forces have been absent for 2 millennia. So there's a lot of people who've been captured and sort of caught in the return of sort of evil and the shadow returning. So there's people you'll be saving, there's people who'll be helping you, there's a lot of those different side characters. And that's where, I mean, that's one of the reasons we're so excited about the panel on Friday. Christian Cantamessa, who's our lead writer and the director of our cinematics, and before that was the lead writer and designer on Red Dead Redemption. He's going to be there at the panel. So I think, you know, what he's done to bring those characters to life. Troy Baker as Talion, of course.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, we're really excited to be able to start showing more about the story and those characters as well. But of course, we want to leave a lot of those secrets still in the game to discover as well, and not too many spoilers.
Sure, sure. All right, great. Looks like we got a question up here. Come on up, Billy.
Hey.
I'll hand this to you and I'll step out of the way.
This is kind of a broad question. I want to know what were some of your inspirations for this game, both in the kind of gaming experience you wanted to create and in the kinds of stories you wanted to tell.
Yeah, that's a good. So it was always going to be a Middle-earth game from the beginning, and we knew we wanted to do an open-world Middle-earth game. You know, the exploration and discovery and that sort of that sense of freedom is something that, as a game, you know, that's the one thing we can do that no one else can do. And then our starting inspirations, I think we really began with Boromir at the Council of Elrond, and that thinking, you know, when he wanted to take the One Ring, and he was very much, for the right reasons, we should use the weapon of the enemy against him. This is a gift.
Yeah.
And the consequences of what that would mean. So, of course, there's a big parallel between what Boromir wanted to do there and what the kings and sorcerers of men who became the Nazgul did.
Yeah.
There's that path. And then that's a question that comes up again and again in Lord of the Rings. You know, the ring gets offered to Gandalf and he rejects it. And I think very much the scene where Frodo offers the ring to Galadriel, and she's like, absolutely, I'm tempted to take this. But if I did, you wouldn't have a Dark Lord, you'd have a Dark Queen. But that, you know, really got our imaginations going as well. Like one of these figures of that level of power within the lore, like Galadriel, that actually could challenge the Dark Lord and could actually destroy him. So kind of those two what-ifs of those moments, of what would Boromir have done with the power of the ring, what would Galadriel have done with the power of the ring, and that very much fed into the two sides of our character, which are Talion and the Wraith.
I like that. It reminds me of that moment in the original Pokemon game where Team Rocket is like, hey, you want to join us? And of course you do. But this is you finally getting a chance to do that on like a Lord of the Rings scale.
Yeah, on a very, very epic scale. And then the other, I guess, main part of the game, of course, is, you know, turning Mordor into a living world. And how can we make that really interesting and something different to what people have seen before? And I think the inspiration there was very much how we see the orcs interacting with each other, and battling against each other. So we see Saruman's Uruk-hai and the Mordor orcs, you know, they're fighting against each other. And we see Sam pretty much able to destroy the entire fortress, the stronghold at Cirith Ungol, just by taking that hatred of the orcs and turning them on each other. So, you know, that as an inspiration for a game system of you being able to be the sort of the spark at the center of this powder keg and kind of set Mordor to flames, combined with the idea of getting to use power in the sense that Tolkien writes about it when he talks of the Rings of Power. You know, that was kind of our starting point.
Awesome. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think we have another question here. All right, come on up.
Thank you. Hi. I guess I had the question, how do you guys respond to the reaction that this is kind of Assassin's Creed in Mordor? Like, what makes it more unique?
I think it's interesting because, like, we very much started out wanting to make a third-person action game. And so I think what that really means is there's just not that many games within that genre, like, you know, compared to shooters or compared to whatever. So the fact that there's almost another new big game in that genre kind of makes some comparisons inevitable. As far as what we actually looked at, Batman was actually a big inspiration for us early for a bunch of different reasons. You know, the controls, the combat in particular, and also how we wanted to approach making this game, because just as not making a movie game, but making the best possible game that we could. So Arkham was certainly a big inspiration.
Awesome. I loved your fighting style in the game too. It's really cool.
I mean, it's that from that foundation, I think what has been fun, and certainly what we've discovered is as soon as anyone gets their hands on the game and as soon as they play it, it's something completely unique. Like, it really is different to what they've played before. So that's why we're so excited about more people getting their hands on it, I guess.
And I guess kind of bouncing off the multiplayer question, is there a possible promise for an MMO platform maybe of this style?
As I say, we're like super focused on our like single player open world action adventure. I mean, obviously, without saying too much, there's Lord of the Rings Online, which is great as well in the MMO. But yeah, we're really super focused on Shadow Mordor.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have got another question here. It's actually from an admin on the Shadow Mordor Wikia, actually.
Cool.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
I promised Monolith Andy I would ask you this.
Oh, no.
He wanted to know on a scale from 1 to 10, who's the most handsomest out of all of your team?
Really?
Yeah.
He asked me to answer that. The only reason he wanted that is because he wanted me to hear me say Monolith Andy.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's the only possible answer. Anything else would so clearly be a lie, because he's so head and shoulders above all of us in handsomeness.
Yeah, well, I actually had a couple of serious questions though.
Thank you.
Not that, yeah, but on a real note though.
Thanks, Andy.
With the as far as from what we've seen that you guys released in the trailers, as far as the domination goes and how we're allowed to dominate enemies, would we be able to dominate an enemy in combat and have them on our side, or is that not included, or how would that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the domination, because so nearly slipped up then. Can't say anything till Friday. The Wraith, because the power of the Wraith. As that grows, the means from which you can dominate your enemies grows with it as well. So early in the game, you're able to sort of drain energy and power from your enemies. Later, you can do that in combat. So throughout the ability tree, there's the ability to do it in combat. There's the ability to do it from stealth. So there's a whole host of different ways, and that can be really powerful, of course, because you can start in a battle where you're surrounded, really heavily outnumbered. You can have dozens and dozens of enemies, so simultaneously, and getting to turn the tide of that in the middle of combat by kind of progressively switching it over to your side, and that moment when the tide turns, that's really fun. It's really cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. So, and as far as enemies go, is there more enemies that we have yet to be revealed, or as for main characters besides the Black Hand and Sauron?
Yes. So of course, we've obviously put a huge amount of effort into focusing on having a massive amount of variety in our Uruks in terms of how they play and what they can do and all of their missions. But there's also the monsters. We've revealed the Caragors and so on. I think we've shown some of the Graugs, but there's other monsters as well. And then additionally, the Black Hand. Those guys. There's a number of those. There's 3 of those as kind of key villains. As I say, we're all sort of trying to lead up to actually face the Dark Lord, so Sauron himself. So there's those kind of what we'd call kind of tentpole boss fights as well.
Yeah, and as far as side missions go, is there an emphasis on side missions, or is it kind of like it's along with your main storyline?
No, so it's really important for us that players have freedom to explore, to pursue what they want to. So there's a whole host of different side missions and challenges. Each of your weapons, we really want them to be a character. So each one of those has their own actual quest line of their own side missions that kind of builds their legend and their story, and as their name gets inscribed on the blade. There's hunting challenges for the various creatures. There's survival challenges. There's side missions around rescuing the humans and the slaves within Mordor. But they're optional. So it's really up to the player. Do you want to just get lost in your own personal stories in the Nemesis system? Do you want to save the people trapped in Mordor? Do you want to do the side missions? Do you want to go hunting after the collectibles? Because of course, as a Middle-earth story, there's so much lore and history and that to dive into. Or do you want to pursue the story missions?
Yeah, actually, you answered a ton of questions that I
sorry,
took.
one go. So
No, that's okay. I hope you guys are
collectibles.
listening. Yeah. But as far as the game being successful as a whole, would you consider adding like a future title into it, or is that too soon to be thought of?
I think it is. I mean, too soon. We just honestly so focused on trying to do as well as we can on the first one. I think the thing that is like relevant to that question is we want this game, like Shadow of Mordor, to be a complete experience. Like, we want to pay off the story in this game. So we're not making it like it's part one of some future sequel. This is the best standalone experience and story that we can make it.
And as far as we know that they have pre-order bonuses and you can go get that. But as far as the U.S. release for the special edition, is there any news for that? Since I haven't been able to see because I know I think in Europe that it's released there, you can order it. But as far as in the U.S., I wasn't able to see a special edition.
All right, I would probably be ordering that myself as well. But yeah, I actually don't know about that. That's in the hands of others.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for that interview. Wow. That was awesome. We've got another from one of our community members from Belgium, I believe, correct?
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Elf Heldier from the Wikia, Shadow of Morder Wikia. I had two questions, actually. And first of all, I want to say praise the player. Second of all, I was wondering about the DLC outfits. Will we be expecting more outfits in the game, and will they be available at start of the game?
I'm not sure exactly what the plans are on the availability, but we are working on some others as well. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Can't say too much about that, though, at the moment.
Okay, and a second question was, we've seen this game push some limits on the PS4 in the demo just now. So I was wondering about version differences, since this game will also be coming out for PS3 and 360.
Mm-hmm.
So what will be the differences? Will it be mainly graphical or?
It's hard to, I mean, they're both still in development, so it's hard to be really specific. But the thing we have tried to do is make sure we can do the best possible version on each platform. So because of that, at Monolith in Seattle, we're totally focused on the PS4, Xbox One, PC. So we're completely focused on those platforms. But then we're sharing all of our code, everything that we've got from the game, with Behavior. And they're another studio, but the thing with those guys, they're completely 100% focused on the PS3 and Xbox 360. So they're really doing, everything they can to get as much as they can of the PS4 and Xbox One game in there.
Yeah. Okay. Perhaps one last question. So how far are you in development at this stage? Are you just polishing everything, or is there still new stuff being added all the time?
We're definitely past adding stuff. Yeah, so because we're shipping on October 7, so it really is its final bugs and it's polished. But even the polish and the balancing, when you've got something like the Nemesis system, like it's so complex and so systemic that what you think is just a little change somewhere can just ripple throughout the entire world of the game. So that final phase of polishing and balancing and bug fixing is just super critical.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's why they sent me out of the building and put me on a train, so I can't interrupt that.
Okay. The game looks great. So thanks for this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. If you've got more questions, please queue up from down here or upstairs as well. Michael, I wanted to ask you about your approach to designing Mordor, because it's really cool, because it seems like you have during this time period, you kind of have a blank slate to work with. It's something we've never seen as fans before. So just how did you approach that?
I think, again, sort of jumping forward to the panel on Friday, and Phil Straub, our art director, is going to be there, and he was obviously really instrumental with that. But I think the key thing with Mordor that it allowed us to do is to take, it's sort of a best of both worlds, because on the one hand, some of the most iconic and important locations in Middle-earth, so, there's Mount Doom, there's the Black Gates, there's Barad-dûr, but on the other hand, they're also some of the least known as well. So it's simultaneously kind of well-known and iconic, but fresh and interesting, which makes it really exciting to explore. And because Mordor at this time is in this period of transition, because of the return of Sauron, it's not the same as when Sam and Frodo see it as this completely blasted hellscape when they go through. So it allows us to bring in, I think, elements that maybe look a little bit more like other places within Middle-earth. And so it's kind of, kind of a best of all worlds to be able to make this really intense environment that's still also very authentic to Middle-earth.
Great. I think we have another question here. Come on up.
Hi, how's it going?
Hello, good.
I had a question about the Nemesis system. As far as we know now that the the Nemesis, the enemies can recognize you and remember you. Does that change the actual storyline? So am I going to get different stories, or am I just going to get different battles, or is it all mixed up together?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the main story, the overarching story of the backstory of Sauron and the Wraith and those, that's fixed.
Okay.
So we wanted those story missions to be as crafted and those characters to be as strong as we possibly could. And of course, we think like Christian and the rest of those guys did an amazing job on that. And at the same time, your personal stories and the villains that you're creating within the Nemesis system, they're uniquely yours and different on every playthrough. And so those two things are kind of happening in parallel. But where it's really cool is there's key moments in the story where those things come together.
Right.
So where you are, in fact, building your own army to take into a battle to challenge one of these key story characters, that's going to be your army. So, the moments where the story and the Nemesis system connect kind of give us the best of both worlds of having this very, very crafted emotional experience, but also making that very personal to your own characters that you've created as well.
That's amazing. To me, it's cutting edge. Is this going to kind of, in your hopes, change the way video games are made now? Because it's almost like an artificial intelligence, the Nemesis system.
It is. I mean, it is an artificial intelligence. Like it is. The tech behind it's really key. The AI is key, but then, it's really something that's actually required every single part of the team to contribute. Right. So it's a huge art challenge from the point of view of making the characters. It's a huge writing challenge from the point of view of writing all these different possible outcomes and memories and making them feel personal. And then it's a huge technical challenge, and it's a huge AI challenge. So, there's no discipline or part of the team that didn't kind of have to come together to make that happen.
You're setting the bar high.
Yeah, I hope so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We have another question. While you're coming up, I'm going to ask one from the community real quick. An anonymous user wanted to know, will there be a skills system in the game to create your own style of character?
Yeah, there's a couple, in fact. So there's the ability trees for both the Ranger and the Wraith that you can unlock in order to, if you wanted to focus more on domination or more on combat or more on stealth or more on ranged, more on, using the beasts and monsters and mounted combat. So that lets you customize your style quite a lot. And then in addition to that, there's the runes. So these are the loot that gets dropped for defeating the Nemesis enemies. And that enables you to customize each of your weapons. So your sword lets you customize your combat to your style. Your bow lets you customize ranged. Dagger lets you customize stealth. So, and one of the fun things with the sort of crafting of that is how you actually defeat your enemy feeds into the type of reward that they'll drop. So if you find an enemy who's vulnerable to stealth, you take him down in one hit with a stealth kill, he's going to drop a dagger rune, which is then going to feed back into your playstyle of stealth as well. So there's kind of a gameplay loop going on there with how you can customize.
Very cool. All right, Ethan.
Hello. So I didn't know anything about your game an hour ago, and after seeing the demo, I'm really excited to cut some heads off some orcs.
So excellent! Even though
I can't wait to play it. It's gonna be great. But my question was, like I said, I don't know very much about it. I saw you were able to kind of dominate an animal and take them over and have them on your side. Are you going to be able to do the same thing with other characters in the game too?
So there's the creatures. I mean, the orcs are pretty kind of key to the idea of domination because, in a way, Sauron, they've been made to be dominated by fear, dominated by terror, fed with hate. So they're particularly susceptible to being owned and controlled.
Great.
Like that, yeah. So that's really the focus. But then also the monsters and the beasts you can find within Mordor are another great tool for that as well.
Wow, awesome. I can't wait.
Thank you.
It'll be great.
All right, thank you very much. We got another question from the back here. Come on up.
Come back up here.
All right, so this is kind of a question for me, since being such a big fan of Tolkien's lore and the whole Lord of the Rings universe. Why Lord of the Rings? Why Middle Earth? Why incorporate that into? What made you think, hey, let's make a Shadow of Mordor game?
In a way, it was the other way around. Like we started off, to make a Middle Earth game, and then that was the seed, and that was the inspiration from which, you know, a lot of the other ideas, whether it's the Nemesis system or power or the Wraith, all of those, everything within our game began as a seed of inspiration within Lord of the Rings. So we were hugely excited to get the opportunity to do that. And you know, Lord of the Rings, it's amazing. Like, it's not only that some of us and myself read it when we were 4 years old, so you know, it's totally embedded into our memories, but it's also such a real place. Like, it's so grounded in myth and history, and it's so real and so inspiring that it's just huge for us to get the chance to make a game set in it, and that made us want to make the best game that we could.
Yeah, well, from me and a lot of our other fans, I just like to thank you for creating a game like this. It means a lot to us.
Thank you. Well, we just can't wait for it to come out and you to get your hands on it, and hope you enjoy it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Hey. So I'm going to ask another community question here. The Outsider from Wikia asks, where did the concept for Wraith abilities materialize from? And was it always intended from the beginning of the idea?
So I mean, the idea of having Wraith abilities, of that being able to travel between the two worlds, again, that came from Lord of the Rings, and it came from the very beginning. It came from seeing what happens when Bilbo wears the ring, seeing what would have happened if Galadriel had have taken the ring, seeing the Nazgul and the Wraiths, and so that idea of having the two worlds and being able to move between the two worlds, the seen and the unseen world, that was really there from the genesis of the game, and also just a really interesting connection between, you've got the physical world, you've got the unseen world, you've got life, and you've got death. So being able to see into that world is very strongly related to undeath, whether it's how we see the Nazgul and so on, or Gollum's life being extended, or the army of the dead. So those ideas went together, and then the idea of power went with that as well. So that sort of triangle of ideas of how to handle death, how to see into the unseen world, and how that relates to the idea of power and domination, and what that means, which all comes back to, you know, like the One Ring, the Ring of Power. This is this thing that's meant to represent the ability to take over the whole world. It's this object of incredible power, but we certainly don't see that manifest when Gollum wears it, or when Bilbo wears it, or when Frodo wears it. So the relationship of what that power actually means to who it is that's actually holding the ring. So
Okay. I got another community question, but again, I'm encouraging folks down here, and especially up top, if you got any questions, come on down. That same user, the Outsider again, was asking, how does the mission structure work? Will it all just be tracking down war chiefs and branding them in each individual region, or will there be other unique tasks to perform?
Yeah, so there's a whole raft of different things. I think, you know, there's the story missions to pursue, there's all the side missions to pursue, there's all of the other challenges and so on. I mean, everything you would expect to see in a third-person open-world action game, all of those sort of quests and side quests. The reason we've probably focused on the Nemesis system and showing that is it's one part of the game, but in some ways it's the newest part. So it's constantly creating new and unique side missions in addition to all of those other normal and story missions that you could do. So short answer, yes.
Yes. All right, great. We got another question here.
All right, here you go. Thanks. Hi. So I'm not very familiar with video game development, but I wanted to ask about how you develop the combat moves, like the way they look. Do you draw on the books, or do you draw on the movies, or previous video games? I'm not sure, but the combat was like the coolest part of what I saw.
Really, you know, that's just, it's one of those slightly challenging questions to answer, because combat's another area where so many different people from so many different disciplines have to contribute. You know, if I was basically just got to go through all those parts of our team and call out what an amazing job they've done. So our animation team, they did a great job. So that's all, you know, it starts off with the motion capture. So it starts off with the motion capture performances of the combat. So they did an extremely good job. because it is a video game, there's even additional challenges. It's not just that it has to look good. It has to be paced in such a way you can understand it, you can read it, you can react to the enemies, and so on. And then so it's the design team. So that's all the timing and the systems and making sure that the challenge is just right. And then it's the AI as well, because the combat doesn't work unless the enemies make it interesting in terms of when and where and how they choose to attack.
Right.
So it really is a very, very, hugely collaborative effort from all of those sides. And of course, to be honest, having the foundation of Arkham as our starting point to look at as a reference point, because beginning we were sort of to some extent in the same position as you. We had to deconstruct and we had to learn how do you make such great combat.
Right.
So that was our starting point. But then the whole team I think did a really good job.
Of course.
It's fun.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. I'm actually going to ask a question from the Twin Galaxies live chat, actually.
Oh, great.
So the question is, how does the domination system work in terms of dominating individual orcs, and what balances out trying to constantly dominate one orc at a time to fight on your side?
Sorry. The sort of the answer to the balance, we don't actually restrict people or prevent them from being able to dominate, the entire hierarchy within a particular area. If they want to go wild and do that, the challenge is that the orcs are constantly battling each other. So these guys are going to be trying to stab your followers in the back. It's it's not going to stop the kind of constant, ruthless prison yard violence of Mordor. So it's quite challenging to get the whole place turned over and to control it and dominate an entire area and bend it to your will. But it absolutely can be done as well. It's just hard.
It's just hard. Let me ask one question from Facebook, actually. Derek Riley from Facebook asks, how big can the battles get?
So they continue to escalate through the course of the game. The battles that we get towards, the very end, where you're actually taking multiple war chiefs and their followers and facing off against, larger groups of Sauron's forces and the Black Captains, they get pretty epic. The thing is, there's a certain point, there's a tipping point where it's just chaos. So we really sort of want to balance and optimize it so that the gameplay, and the numbers and the scale of it works really, really well within our combat system. But they get pretty big.
Great. Okay, come on up.
This is kind of a silly question,
Excellent.
and I have this question every time I see anybody creating any sort of large fantasy world, and I figure I'm never going to get a chance again. I love that all of the orcs have their own names and personalities, and they really feel like individuals, which is very cool because I get tired of playing games with too many faceless grunts. But they all have those names like Cragmo and Ular the Butt Toucher, and I always wonder, is there one guy who just that's his job? Is he just has to sit there all day and this one is Galnak, and this one is.
So without trying to answer too seriously, but one of the big inspirations for titles is Vikings, and Vikings would give themselves titles, and the reason they give themselves badass titles is because they want to sound intimidating and so on. So the assumption is these guys don't have those titles. We don't actually have a butt toucher, but if we did, for example, it's once he would become promoted, once as grunts, as normal guys in the world, they don't have a title. It's only once they prove themselves and become captains and have gone over a certain threshold of butt touching that's what they can call themselves.
They have to, and once they're respected in the community.
They have to earn it. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it. I'm going to grab another question from Facebook, actually. Timothy Francesco Benvenuti, I hope I didn't butcher his name, he's from Facebook, asks, on a scale of bad finales to bacon-filled pools, how amazing is this game and the people who developed it? I would assume bacon-filled pools are awesome.
Good. That's what I was trying to kind of work out which is at which end of the scale there. Stumped. I would say it's butt touching.
Yeah, and that's open for interpretation.
Yes,
I interpret
exactly.
it as very good, excellent,
Somewhere
excellent.
between bacon and yes.
Got it. We have a question down here. Yeah. Come on up.
Darren, back again.
Okay.
Good, thanks. So we don't know a lot about story yet. I'm assuming there will be more in the following days.
Oh yeah, definitely come to the panel on Friday.
Yeah.
It's going to be all about story.
Yeah. So one question about story at this point. Will the story span several years, or will it be just one point in Lord of the Rings history?
A little bit of both, because one of the sort of, I guess, the key devices that we have in the game is death and resurrection as the Wraith. And we're not sort of totally, specific over what sort of time span that takes. But it is, it's one sort of self-contained story that's over a few years. So, it's not covering that whole period up to the War of the Ring. It is one kind of self-contained story.
Yeah. Okay, and another question that popped up on the wiki a lot was, how long do you estimate this game will take?
It's sort of a slightly tricky question, because it very much depends how you play it. And one of the things, we give players a lot of control over their own difficulty. So the absolute most super efficient Dark Souls speedrun, if you'd played it 10 times maybe, versus the more completionist playthrough and exploring it and enjoying it. But it's certainly around that 20 hours plus for a good playthrough.
Very nice.
But then there's a lot of, the thing we really are proud of is when you do it, because I've, myself, a lot of guys on the team, we're now replaying it multiple times, and the fact that it, genuinely isn't in any way boring to do so. You really are having a new experience each time you replay, so that's fun.
Yeah. So the Nemesis system always reboots from every new game.
Yes,
it's a new
yeah,
Nemesis.
yeah, exactly. Well, the thing is, even if it, it does, but B, because it's so formed by what happens to you, if you happen to be killed, or if a guy happens to survive, or if he gets scarred, those little events become the seeds that then kind of grow into kind of bigger stories. So there's really no possible way it can't be different, every time you play.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to ask a question from Instagram, actually.
Oh, cool.
M. John Simon from Instagram asks, what's the relationship between the Wraith and Talion?
That's a deep question. Again, that's another one where I think we're really excited about the panel on Friday, because we're going to be able to explore that and reveal that a bit more deeply. If I was going to, I guess, speak to it in regard to Middle-earth and lore and what it means, it's got something in common with the relationship of the ring, of the One Ring, to the ring bearer. Like, they need it, and it gives them power, but that's also at a cost as well. And I think very much like the ring itself is almost a character. It has its own agenda, its own identity. It wants to be found. So, and the Wraith in some ways is, is very much parallel to that as well.
Okay, and then I'm also going to ask a question from someone on Twitter. Dark Knight 307 from Twitter asks, is Sauron in the game?
Yes, absolutely. Sauron. That's one of the things we're so excited about with the Wraith, with being able to explore the deeper history of the Wraith, the story of the forging of the Rings of Power, is that gives us a way through sort of flashbacks and memories to actually see more of Sauron as a character, and see him as more as than just the Dark Lord. Actually see him at those times, and then also face him as the villain in this game as well. So yes.
Okay, excellent. Well, I think, we got one more question. Come on up. Yeah.
Hi, thanks for being here with us.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask the controversial question. There's been a lot of controversy about female characters in gaming, and one of the great things about the Lord of the Rings mythology is very strong female characters. Do you guys have anything in it for the ladies?
Thank you. I'm so glad you presented it like that, because I actually totally agree that one of the great things about Lord of the Rings is Eowyn is amazing, and so many others. And so yes, we've tried as much as we can within some of the characters that you're going to meet to ensure that we have really strong female characters that are very respectful and authentic to Tolkien.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, all right, so I know that you are a Middle-earth trivia master
God.
enthusiast.
Yes, here we go.
We happen to have someone in our community as well who is not too shabby. I don't want to put too much pressure on him, but he's not too shabby. So I'd like to bring him up and maybe have you guys go head to head in a little kind of just a quick lightning round, if you will.
Okay, here we go.
So Lord TJ, my friend, why don't you come on up? All right.
Hey,
Nice to meet you again.
nice to see you again.
So
All right, here we go.
I'm going to ask some questions. We'll go back and forth. So I think we should just start with Lord
Okay,
TJ.
so it's not
He'll get
finger
a
on the buzzer?
question. Yeah.
All right.
And we'll just, do we have anybody keeping track here just for fun? Okay. Excellent. No pressure or anything, but you guys ready? Yeah. All right. So Lord TJ, we will start with you. During the years between The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, where was Bilbo's sword Sting? Is the answer A, locked up in a coffer, B, in a local museum, C, hanging over his fireplace, or D, given to Frodo upon his adoption?
Let me hear that one more time.
During the years between The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, where was Bilbo's sword Sting? A, locked up in a coffer, B, in a local museum, C, hanging over his fireplace, or D, given to Frodo upon his adoption?
It wasn't given to Frodo. What was A again?
A was locked up in a coffer,
And B was?
in a local museum,
And C was?
hanging over his fireplace.
It was A.
Ooh, I'm sorry. It was C, hanging over his fireplace.
I would have said A. I'm sure it was A. We'll check that. All right.
All right, sir. For you, how many great rings were forged in the Second Age? A1, B19, C20, or D13?
Okay, 9 for men, 7 for dwarves, 3 for elves, and the 1. Hang on. 9 plus 7 plus 3 plus 1. 20.
You are correct.
All right, 120. Okay.
All right, so you ready? Here we go. This is where we tied up. What did Galadriel give to Gimli as the Fellowship departed Lothlorien? Is it A, 3 hairs from her head, B, an elven brooch, C, the light of Arendelle, or D, an elven rope?
You said Gimli?
Yes, to Gimli.
Say the answers again?
A, 3 hairs from her head, B, an elven brooch, C, the light of Arendelle, or D, an elven rope?
B.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's A, 3 hairs from her head. I know, you're on the spot, dude. You're a little nervous. It's okay. Don't worry. All right, Michael. Here we go. Which of the following is not a fortress in Middle-earth? A, Helm's Deep, B, Angband, C, Minas Tirith, or D, Farnar?
D.
Correct. All right. Back to Travis. We're going to give you a true-false. All right? True-false. When the origins for orcs was conceived, the prevailing idea is that they were once elves that had been tortured or corrupted, and their appearance changed over time. Is it true or false?
True.
Correct. All right. Let's go. Michael, we're back to you. You ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
All right. According to Glenn Yarborough's beloved and derided song, "Where There's a Whip, There's a Way," from the 1980 version of The Return of the King, what does the Lord of the Lash say? Is it A, yay, 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 B, nay, 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 C, hey, 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 or D, way, way, way?
So confession, I have never seen that version. I'm going, what was B again?
B was nay, nay, nay.
A again?
A is yay, yay, yay.
I'm going with A.
A. I'm sorry, the answer is B, nay, nay, nay. So close. All right. Okay, Travis, ready? Here we go. Smeagol's life was extended by how many years due to his exposure to the One Ring? A, 400, B, 700, C, 600, or D, 500?
Whoa.
Found the ring and that was...
Okay, we got A, 400, B, 700, C, 600, or D, 500.
I'm leaning towards A or D. I think it was 500.
You are correct. D, 500. All right. Good job. Okay. Michael. Also known as Angrenost, which means Iron Fortress in Sindarin, it was one of the 3 fortresses of Gondor and held within it one of the realms Palantiri. Is it A, Minas Morgul, B, Minas Tirith, C, Isengard, or D, Helm's Deep?
What was the original name?
The original name was Angrenost, which means Iron Fortress in Sindarin.
It's Isengard.
Correct. All right. All right, Travis. Another true-false. You ready? True or false? 3 of the rings of power were made for the dwarf lords.
False.
Correct. All right. Anybody know how many were made for the dwarf lords? 7. Yeah. All right. Wow, I shouldn't have moved. All right.
What are we on?
What are we up to? What's the score? 3-3. We are tied. All right. All right. Here we go. All right. Michael, what was the name of Morgoth's son, the Lord of Balrogs? Is it A, Gothmog, B, C, Glaurung, or D, Ancalagon?
It was Gothmog, but I don't think he's his son, technically. But anyway.
Well, but the answer's right.
Yeah.
So, hey, all right. Fantastic. All right. Travis, Lord TJ, how many Istari, or wizards, came from the west to aid the people of Middle-earth as Sauron was rising again? Is the answer A, 1, B, 3, C, 5, or D, 7? No problem. A, 1, B, 3, C, 5, or D, 7?
I'm leaning toward either C or D. I think it was 5.
Correct. 5. All right. All right, Michael. We're coming down to the wire here. 1 minute. All right. I'm gonna ask. Let's see. Let me go. Okay, here we go. Are we tied up still? Okay. How many characters placed the 1 ring of power on their finger? A, 3, B, 4, C, 5, or D, 7?
Okay. Sauron, Bilbo, Frodo, Gollum, Sam. 5.
I'm sorry, it's 7. Isildur and Tom Bombadil.
Tom didn't put it on his finger. He tossed it in the air. So 6.
6 wasn't an option. We'll go to 7. All right, 7. I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry. Okay, do we have time for a quick, or do we got to cut? Quickly, Travis. The lands of Mordor are protected by mountain ranges on all sides. Which of these is not one of them? A, the Misty Mountains. B, the Ash Mountains. C, the Mountains of Shadow. Or D, the Gray Mountains?
What was
the Misty Mountains, the Ash Mountains, the Mountains of Shadow, or the Gray Mountains?
What was B and C again?
The Ash Mountains or the Mountains of Shadow?
I'm leaning toward either B or C. For some reason, I want to say Mountains of Shadow, but Ash Mountains doesn't sound familiar to me. I think it was the Mountains of Shadow.
I'm sorry. The answer is the Misty Mountains. I think that's we got all we got for, right? Time for? But we're tied up. Great job, Travis. Here you go, sir. We got a special T-shirt for you. Thank you so much for playing. All right. All right, guys. I think that is going to do it for us. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for participating, both here live, on the live stream as well. And remember, Friday, 12:30 p.m. in room 8, we have the Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor how the Nemesis system evolves new generation storytelling in games and explores the history of the Rings of Power. Michael, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm going to Google if Tom wore the ring.
I think he did.
Pre-order now to become the Dark Ranger and collect runes in challenge mode to jumpstart your game.